What's going on, everybody? I'm back with another video. This video is going to be looking at Real Madrid versus Chelsea in the Champions League semi-final first leg. So before we start, my book is out. The link is in the description below. If you want to check it out, that would be great. And as always, Keyframe's link and the membership option are both in the description below, both links. So be sure to check that cool stuff out, but let's get right into it. So Chelsea, when building from the back, they built out the back with three central defenders, which saw some asymmetry in the first line, Silva and Christensen sharing the half space. Conte would often fade into the wide area, opening up this position, this half space for Jorginho to then play the third man option through the half space to get them out of pressure. Now, going forward, they built with three central defenders in each of the central corridors, and from here they would focus on finding players in the half space and using Conte's movement to overload the half space. The first rondo situation we see involved the wingback Pulisic, Conte, and Christensen, creating a wide structure which was created by Timo Werner pinning the central defenders. And when Conte would rotate into the half space, this would give them a 5 versus 4 situation, a lot of the times with Benzema cutting off Jorginho, which would then open up circulation around the first line of build-up. When Jorginho would drop between central defenders, Chilwell would often occupy a higher position. Real Madrid would shift across, Casemiro would be dragged out a little bit, creating more space for Mount, with then Timo Werner pinning on this strong side. And with Real Madrid's man orientation of their back three, when Timo Werner would check, this would often open up space for Pulisic in behind for deeper runs. Now, Real Madrid in possession, the main rotations involved the base at Cruz, which saw Marcelo often play as an attacking midfielder in this advanced half space around the Chelsea midfield. So when Chelsea moved into their mid block, moving away from their 5-2-3, they saw more of a 5-3-2 with Conte and Mount around the double pivot of Real Madrid. Cruz would often drop as a deep line playmaker, putting Fernandes into the wide position, which saw Marcelo as an attacking midfielder for most of the game. So when Cruz and Casemiro would stay as double pivots in the second line of build-up, we saw another rotation that saw Modric come into the wide area, more advanced to play around the Chelsea block, and in this space, which Carvajal would then go higher to pin the Chelsea back line and then progress the attack further forward. Guys, now for the keyframe aspect of the video, we have Real Madrid in possession, and this is after they use Toni Kroos as the wide rotation. You see him as a deep line playmaker outside of the Chelsea. And after this rotation, we saw Casemiro being left as the lone pivot to then springboard the attack and connect the first line into more advanced areas. And from here, we also saw Modric and Marcelo as more advanced midfielders occupying the space between the lines, and Fernandes holding the width of the structure in the team in possession. And we saw Chelsea match this with their back five, as they have done under Tuchel this whole time. The three-man midfield, so instead of going with a 5-2-3, they go with a 5-3-2, which let Conte and Mason Mount help out Jorginho defensively a little bit and allowed these two to use their mobility to cover more distance, limiting the effect Jorginho's athleticism had on the game, and really helped him out a lot. And with the two forwards, they were able to better press the front three, or the first three in Real Madrid's build-up structure. So now Chelsea in possession with their three central defenders. Oftentimes, when Conte would stay alongside Jorginho, this was to create more space between the lines for Mason Mount and Christian Pulisic. It also gave them a little bit more security if they were to lose the ball in transition, but more often than not, we saw Conte fade into the half space in a bit higher position, which then gave them a three-man overload in this half space with Christian Pulisic, Christensen, and then now Conte, allowing them to manipulate the Real Madrid defense a little bit better. And from here, we can even see the Real Madrid shape with their 5-4-1. Timo Werner often positioning himself between two of the central defenders, as we see here, pinning them, allowing for more space between the lines. And their four-man midfield, with Vinicius and Madrid as the wide players being attracted to the first line of Chelsea defense, which would then open up these half spaces as well in more advanced areas. Again, in the second half, we see Toni Kroos dropping deeper as a deep-lying playmaker, leaving Casemiro alone as the single pivot. Marcelo and Madrid playing through the half space, and we see Modric playing outside of the midfield three of Chelsea, allowing him to at any moment fade with the circulation in possession. If Real Madrid were to circulate the ball, Modric would be able to fade into this wider area, allowing Carvajal to then occupy a higher area and pin the defenders to then give Modric more space on the ball. And another thing to note is the overload Real Madrid would create in the half space. They'd occupy this half space with three players, with Marcelo and Vinicius as more advanced players, and allowing their movement to work off one another and to then progress Real Madrid into more advanced positions. Lastly, after the subs came on for Chelsea, this made them a lot more fluid, and it saw Conte more often than not play in more advanced areas because of their new structure, which left Jorginho as the single pivot, and he then created a five-man diamond in the midfield, which saw him at the base, because his ability to find these passes and these first line passes and draw out a defense with the pace he dictates on the ball and the way he's able to slow and attract pressure to then release it, facilitated more forward passes, which was created by the increased numbers of players between the lines. So with Conte going into the half space and higher up the field, this often allowed them to work off of each other between the lines, manipulate the Real Madrid block, and generate more forward passing options. And as we see here, Real Madrid playing in their clear 5-4-1, seeing Benzema as the lone striker, and when Chelsea were in possession of the ball. And that's the analysis, guys. Hope you guys enjoyed it, and I'll see you in the next video.